My name is Lucas, and I never imagined I'd be telling anyone about what happened to me. But after everything I experienced, I realized I have no choice. On April 21st, 2024, my life changed in ways I still struggle to understand. I actually died, and not for a brief moment either. I was gone for 11 full minutes. During those 11 minutes, I witnessed something beyond any dream or drug-induced vision. It was real. I was shown events tied to Canada's future, and it shook me to my very core. A message was placed in my heart, something I need to share, no matter how impossible it sounds. This isn't a story meant to terrify you, it's meant to prepare you. So please listen carefully. I was stationed at CFB Cold Lake in Alberta, going through routine training exercises. I serve as a sergeant in the Canadian Forces, an infantry soldier. The day started early, around 5:30 a.m. I got out of my bunk, laced up my boots, and headed out for a pre-dawn jog on base. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky with a soft glow of pink and orange. After my run, I showered, grabbed a quick breakfast in the mess hall, and prepared for a field drill. My wife, Anna, had texted me a sweet good luck message that morning. She always did that before a big day. We have 2 kids, Michael and Sienna, both back home in Calgary with her while I was on a month-long rotation. By 2 p.m., my unit and I were out at the training range. We were practicing convoy maneuvers, simulating a roadside emergency under hostile conditions. Everything was going smoothly until it wasn't. A heavily armored personnel carrier, APC in front of us, lost traction on a muddy patch, skidded sideways and flipped. I was standing next to our own vehicle, trying to direct the driver to avoid the crash, when the APC's turret snapped loose and slammed into me. There was no time to dive out of the way. The last thing I remember is a sudden crushing impact and the echo of my teammates shouting, then nothing. I knew I was gone the instant it happened. First, there was no pain, no fear, no confusion, just a sudden, eerie stillness. One moment, I was pinned under that broken turret. The next, I was floating above my own body, watching my comrades scramble. I saw the medics rush over, check my pulse, and shake their heads. I heard one of them say, "We're losing him." But I felt oddly calm, peaceful even. Then a powerful light appeared, not like a harsh flashlight or stadium beam, but a living light that filled every corner of my awareness with warmth. I was drawn toward it, as if gravity itself had changed direction and was pulling me upward. That's when a voice, gentle yet authoritative, called my name. "Lucas, come." I knew instantly who it was. It was Jesus. No one had to tell me. I could feel his presence, a profound, all-consuming love I had never known. I moved closer, not by walking, but by willing myself in his direction. The world around me, the overturned APC, the soldiers, the base, simply vanished. I found myself standing in a place that words can't describe. It felt like a field of light, with ground that shimmered under my feet and air that vibrated with life. And there he stood. I can't say I recall the exact details of his face. It was more like looking into pure love, a love so intense that I broke down in tears. They weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of recognition, of realizing I was finally in the presence of the one who knew me better than I knew myself. "Lucas, you have a message to deliver," he said, holding out his hand. The moment he touched me, I felt a surge of power that pulsed from my head to my toes, like being filled with light from the inside out. Suddenly the field faded. Everything around me dissolved like morning mist, and I found myself standing somewhere entirely different. When my vision cleared, I was on a bustling street in Vancouver. Only it wasn't the Vancouver I know. Something was off. The people I saw had small glowing implants visible under the skin of their left forearms. They were using these implants in place of phones or wallets. They waved their arms at scanners in shops, tapped them on terminals to unlock doors, even used them to adjust personal settings, like changing the brightness of their own clothing. "Watch carefully," Jesus said. "This is one possible future for Canada." Parents ushered their children through metal detectors at schools, where the kids' implants lit up in recognition. In a grocery store, I saw a woman wave her forearm to buy food. Outside, posters declared, "Safe and secure, embrace the future." But something felt deeply wrong. The more people use the implants, the more distant and hollow they seem. Their eyes looked vacant, as if the device dulled their spirits. "They do not see the chains," Jesus said, voice tinged with sadness. "Comfort came first, then dependence. Many no longer seek me, they believe convenience is enough." I watched as a megachurch in Vancouver welcomed people in with scanners at the door. Pastors preached that God has given us this technology to unite us. Offerings were taken via chip, scriptures displayed on massive screens. Few carried actual Bibles. The worship felt thin, almost mechanical. The passion was gone. Let me pause for just a moment outside of this story. If you find these kinds of accounts meaningful or thought-provoking, please subscribe and stay tuned for more near-death experiences. Now back to what I saw. "Some will see," Jesus continued, but many will not. Suddenly the scene shifted again. I was taken to a rural community in northern Alberta. Families lived off the grid, growing their own food, resisting the implant system. They prayed together in barns and makeshift chapels. Their faces were thin from hardship, but a spiritual radiance surrounded them. I heard them talking about how their bank accounts had been frozen. They couldn't buy property or find regular work because they refused the upgrades. Yet they glowed with an inner peace that was absent in the bustling cities. "They have chosen me over comfort," Jesus said. "I will protect them as I protected Elijah at the brook." I saw miracles happening, gardens that grew overnight, small amounts of food that miraculously fed entire groups, children healed through simple, heartfelt prayers. Angels stood guard at the edges of these communities, unseen by most, but undeniably present. The vision changed, and now I was looking at Canada as a whole, its provinces, territories, mountains, and cities. I watched the land itself tremble. Floods swept through sections of Quebec. Wildfires raged in British Columbia, and storms battered the Atlantic coastline. The economic system spiraled into chaos. Stock markets crashed, banks closed their doors, panic spread everywhere. Protests erupted in urban centers. People demanded solutions. The government tried imposing curfews, rolling out more advanced implants to restore order. Drones hovered overhead, scanning crowds, ensuring compliance. Soldiers patrolled the streets in full gear. "They built on sand," Jesus said, his eyes filled with sorrow. "They trusted man's systems more than they trusted me." Large digital billboards flickered on in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. A smooth-talking official addressed the weary public. "My fellow Canadians," he said with a reassuring smile, "I know you're scared, but we have the solution. Our enhanced implant system will stabilize the economy, secure your funds, and ensure public safety. Join us in this new era of peace." Lines formed instantly. Desperate people believed it was their only chance. But as they received the enhanced implants, a darkness crept over them. Their eyes, once hopeful, turned dull, as though their free will was slowly slipping away. Some churches welcomed the official's message, praising the technology as a gift from God. Other churches resisted, refusing to install scanning systems at their doors. Those that resisted found themselves locked out of their own buildings. Pastors were arrested for defying public safety measures. Then I saw a series of underground gatherings. Believers huddled in basements, barns, and forest clearings. They prayed with an urgency and power I'd never witnessed before. Their prayers rose like columns of light into the sky. Angels descended, tearing down spiritual barriers, opening pathways for supernatural provision. A small group knelt around a woman on a makeshift cot. She was pale, barely breathing. They prayed over her, tears flowing freely. A warm glow enveloped her body, and she opened her eyes, healed. In another corner of the country, a father sat with his children in a tiny cabin, unable to buy groceries because he refused the implant. They prayed, and the next morning, neighbors showed up with baskets of food. "I don't know why, but I felt I needed to bring you this," the neighbor said. Jesus showed me two contrasting worlds, operating side by side, those who embrace the system, living in relative comfort with easy access to resources, yet their spirits were numb, their worship hollow, those who rejected it forced to live on the fringes, relying on faith in each other, yet they shone with an unmistakable inner light. I saw young people in particular standing bold against the rising darkness. They traveled on foot or by bicycle, carrying tattered Bibles and handwritten notes of scripture. They encouraged pockets of believers scattered across the country. "The enemy targeted the young, but I am raising them up as warriors," Jesus said. "They will speak truth where falsehood reigns." Teenagers laid hands on the sick and they were healed. Children prayed passionately and miracles followed. In the streets, they boldly declared, "We will not bow to this new system. We belong to Jesus." The final part of the vision was the hardest to watch. Canada was in turmoil, military checkpoints dotted the highways, people without upgraded implants were labeled threats and detained. Families were torn apart, still the faithful pressed on. I watched them gather night after night, praying for their country, praying even for those who persecuted them. And in response to those prayers, light began to break through the suffocating darkness over entire regions. People who had once sneered at faith found themselves drawn to these underground believers, seeking hope in a time of despair. "When my people pray, strongholds crumble," Jesus said. "Darkness flees from the light." Suddenly, I was back in the base hospital at CFB Cold Lake, doctors and nurses surrounding me. A medic shouted, "He's back!" My chest ached. They'd used the defibrillator multiple times. In total, I'd been dead for 11 minutes. But I knew in my heart I'd been somewhere far more real than any hospital room. I had a message, a warning, and a call to faith. I'm not here to condemn technology outright or to cause panic. I'm simply relaying what was revealed to me. A time is coming when convenience will lead many astray. Faith will be tested as never before, and true believers will have to stand firm. God will protect and provide for those who trust Him above all else. There is hope even in the darkest times because prayer unlocks miracles. I was shown that our greatest battle won't be fought with guns or politics. It will be spiritual, waged in the hearts of every Canadian. I survived that day so I could share this vision. Whether you believe me or not is your choice, but I urge you to seek truth now while you still can. Ask questions, read the scriptures, pray, because one day the comfort we've clung to may crumble and only faith will remain. That's my story. It's not meant to terrify you. It's a warning and a plea. Be prepared. If you take anything from this, let it be that in the midst of chaos, there is always hope for those who turn to God. Thank you for listening. My name is Lucas, and this is the account of my death and my return.